Hello, it's Dr. Rowe here. I hope you're well. I'm actually sitting in my hotel room about to present, and funnily enough, I've got my glasses on because I've just been reading, and I thought I'd address a question that's come up relating to reading, which is, what are your top 3 books, your favorite personal development books? Which I think is a fantastic question. It's actually a question that comes up more often than not. In fact, every time I'm speaking in front of an audience, one of the things that happens is people come up in a break or at the end of the day and say, hey, Dr. Rowe, can you give me the names of some of your books that you really like? What are your favorite books? Before I answer that question, I do want to make a point of saying that every single human being, myself included at 53 years of age, we go through different levels and different periods of personal development, personal evolution, emotional evolution. And I think it was Carl Jung that said there are different stages of maturation that we all have, meaning that we all mature in different ways. And some people get to a certain level and don't actually evolve beyond that. And other people continue to grow and evolve through their life. So I can tell you now, for example, that there are books that I read when I was in my 20s. I started reading personal development books at 18 years of age. 18, that's like 35 years ago. 35 years ago. And when I read those books when I was in my teens and early 20s, and I picked up some of those books later in life, I noticed that I took a different meaning from those books. I could even see the highlights that I'd made way back then. These are the pages that are yellowed, and you're flicking through them and your kids are like, Daddy, what's that? Oh, that's an old book that Daddy read when I was like 22 years of age. And when I flick through the books or open up the book and reread it again, I noticed, because of where I am as a human being now, my awareness and my absorption and my intellectual processing of that information is different to how it was back then. So I wouldn't get too hung up with what's your best book. I think it's more important to ask a question about what's the appropriate book for where I am right now at this stage of my personal development. So for example, you might be somebody that's going through challenges like I went through with relationships at some point in the past, or it might be that you're going through financial challenges, or your confidence is low and you don't feel you have inside you, although you will have, but you don't feel you have the ability to overcome certain challenges. Or it might be that you are just so busy that your head is in one place, but your heart is in another place. That's a different type of reading altogether. It might be that you just haven't learned to slow down, to meditate, to relax, and you need something that's more spiritual. So the choice of book very, very much depends on where you are at any moment in your life. So try not to get too hung up on labeling or attaching yourself to a specific genre of book or type of book. More make it about reading as you evolve and what you're drawn to. It might be that you see something on a bookshelf and you go, you know what, I don't know why, but I'm drawn to that book, but it's not a typical book I would have ever have read. And that's okay, because that's your heart, that's your soul, that's your head, all aligning together to say, give me that book, give me that book. That's the thing I actually need right now. So I'm going to give you 3 books. I wouldn't say they were the top 3 books because there's so many jostling for that position. But if I give them to you, I'm giving them to you for a reason, because they're across 3 different areas of life. And hopefully from that, it might just allow you to start to build in these areas. So what's the first book? The first book is I'm going to give you this. Well, okay, I'm going to give you 4, actually. I'm going to be a bit naughty here. I'm going to give you 4. The first one is a book I read when I was probably 22, 23 years of age. It's by Dr. David Schwartz. It's called The Magic of Thinking Big. Now, that is an old book, and I love that book because it got me thinking differently. It got me thinking at a completely different level. I think I actually got recommended that book when I started looking at businesses at a young age, and one of the early types of business that I looked at was a network marketing business way back in the day, in the 80s. So that was a book I got recommended then, and I loved the book because it gave me a sense of scalability. I can take my life to another level. It got me to think about tiny little things. Like, for example, there was a chapter in there on walk 25% faster. And I thought, that's brilliant. You see people ambling along through life, they're walking along, they don't seem very purposeful. And the point he made was, if you walk 25% faster, it gives your body a different dynamic energy. It makes you feel like you've got a sense of purpose, but it also gets other people watching you and they're going, well, where's that person going? They seem to be on purpose. Let me go chat to that person. They've got a bit of direction going on there. So go have some fun with that book. It's an American written book. If you don't like that style of writing, don't focus on the language and what's used in the book. Focus on the message that's appropriate to you. So The Magic of Thinking Big, that's the first one that I recommend. The next book is Think and Grow Rich. Now, Think and Grow Rich is a book that if you hear iconic speakers, some of the most amazing international inspirational speakers in the world, I've heard this reference many, many times. Think and Grow Rich is right up there on the top of their list. It is a book that was written in the early 1900s by Napoleon Hill. Now, Napoleon Hill studied thousands of people, some of the most successful people in the world. And over a 20-year period, I think that's what it took to basically collate all this information and study. He created a set of what he called characteristics of the most successful people in the world. For example, decisiveness was one of the things that came out. And he actually states in there that decisiveness is at the top of the list of the characteristic of the most successful people in the world. Whereas being indecisive was one of the things that made people fail. So these are the sorts of things I find fascinating. It's a heavy read if you've never read anything like this. Not heavy as in, oh God, this is heavy, but it's just so much detail. And it's the sort of book you can't really read in one go. You almost have to read it, put it down, digest it, process it, come back, have a think, go and apply it, read another chapter, go back. If you look at my original copy, it's got highlight marks all over it. It's just one of those things that you're going to love it. It's a great read. So Think and Grow Rich. And this is more about wealth, okay? So first book, Magic of Thinking Big, is more about emotional growth and thinking beyond yourself. Think and Grow Rich is really focused on the wealth process that goes through the mind, money, your relationship to money, your vision about your future, and all of those things. So that's Think and Grow Rich. Another book I'd like to recommend to you is a book that is a storybook. Now, this particular author, I think if you came and looked at my bookshelf, I think I've got most of his books. And this is Ogmandino, and the book is called The Choice. Now, I recommended this to a good friend of mine recently, and he loved it. It's a fantastic book, especially if you're at a stage in your life. Excuse me while I just move around a bit on this couch. If you are at a stage in your life where you are not sure about the career you're in, you know you want to make a change, you know you have something inside you that is beyond what you're doing right now, go read this book. It's brilliant. It takes you through a journey of a man that really is going through that process of change, and The Choice is really expanding through his thoughts and his experience what you need to go through and what he went through in order to make a completely different shift in his life altogether. So that's The Choice. Okay, I just got interrupted there, which is why I just quickly got cut off there as I was saying my last book. Now, my last book is a beautiful book. It is a book by a gentleman called Dr. Wayne Dyer, who sadly died not so long ago. Inspirational human being. If you ever want to just listen to somebody and imagine your ears being fed with hot chocolate or something nice and calm and relaxing and meditative, go and read this book. This is a book called The Power of Intention. I have to say the audio of this is amazing, and if you get a chance, go listen to the audio. Dr. Wayne Dyer is a very deep, emotional, spiritual gentleman who I've been following for many, many years, and I find his teachings inspirational. He has a wisdom that really reaches down inside your soul. And if you are looking for a book that connects on a more spiritual level, on a more emotional level, this is a book for you. So The Power of Intention will take you on that journey. In fact, I remember the very first time that I listened to him and he narrated the book, I actually got very tearful because he talked about one specific thing, and it was appropriate to my stage in my life at that moment. And he talked about the fact that everything happens at exactly the right time for exactly the right reasons. And I needed to hear that at that moment in time. So get the book, and if you get the chance, have a listen to him on one of his audios, because he's amazing. 4 books, not 3. Hopefully you're okay with that. For the overachievers, you're like, great, Dr. O, thanks for the extra book. Enjoy the reads, and at some point, hopefully in the future when I meet you, you can tell me how you enjoyed them, but what you got from them as well. It's Dr. O signing out. Thank you for the question.